Hello, everybody. This is Suneve with Somewhere in the Snow, Eyeless Jack X Reader, Chapter 13, Mysteries to be Told. There's many wonders and mysteries hidden between the trees. An example of that was the disfigured along with the early birds, though. We never talk beyond these examples. They are kept hidden for a reason, after all. That still doesn't explain why one of those creatures decided to go to her out of all of the people in the world. Jack kept his sockets on the phone screen, the red pulsing dot that soon disappeared once he and they met their destination. Even when the ghostly elf boy returned from his little cavern, in which made the screen go blank, and made him wonder. He had a grip tight onto the side of the rectangular-shaped object in his hand, spaced out and silent. Of course, he had to snap out of his mindless journey a little too soon. There was a muffled yapping sound of someone yelling, which made Jack blink a few times, but making the clearing into his ears. "Fucking hell, Jack, give me my phone!" yelled Jeff. Jack quickly pulls his head away from the source of the sound. Jeff. Wincing and reaching over with his other hand to barricade the booming away. His ears twitched from how sensitive his ears became and how his grip loosened. Suddenly, he lost hold of the phone before hearing more yelling and complaints. Jeff walked away muttering and checking the sides of his phone to see if there were any damages. Surprisingly, he actually made sure to take care of his phone, but that really wasn't the point. There were snickers and blank faces following along as the others walked past, or was it just there to experience the whole thing? Jack spacing out? Never thought to see that. "Did you get your panties wet or something? That never happens to you." A voice popped out. Kobe, also known as X-Virus. Brown messy hair, neonish green or blue goggles, depending on his mood, a gas mask which covered his mouth, and a green sweater under the unbuttoned lab coat that laid lazily on his shoulders and covered his back. The look-alike bastard of one of their higher-ups, or proxies most might say, approaches Jack with his hands full of shit. Kobe raised Jack's arms up, checking to look if something was wrong. Tilted his neck, waved his hand in Jack's face, even bold enough to try and take Jack's mask off. That never happened, because Jack didn't let Kobe even touch his mask. Jack swats his hand away before Kobe's fingertips, in an attempt to reach over his mask. "Oh, sorry, I forgot how protective you are of your mask." Kobe scratched the back of his neck, as some of his little tools fell out of his arms. Kobe was one of the newer recruits, just arrived about 2 or 3 years or so. Kinda surprising they actually found someone. Though he's been proven worthy for a long time, they just wanted to keep their asses waiting till it was the right time, in which he had finally fallen. Not to mention he also worked with Jack times to time in the lab or with Nurse Anne, quite helpful but clumsy, and always seemed to be late or have a busy hand. Kobe bent over and reached for his tools that fell out of his hands. He then said his goodbyes, his fingertips moving in a pattern as his wrist helplessly cupped his tools close to his arms and prevented them from falling. Jack watched as he took his leave before another person came up saying, "Hey, T, oh, it's you." A look of realization and madly disgust following the face. "Here I thought I finally found him," the other person growled, looking each way before rushing away as Kobe tilted his head. His shoulders suddenly coming up with a happy and cheeky "ha!" before continuing his journey to wherever he was going. It was interesting to Jack how most of these people aren't as observant as they're expected to be. Possibly because they really didn't feel the need to unless they were felt uncertain or threatened. Or maybe out of no care, which is mostly the reason why they always get Kobe mixed up with another. He wouldn't say they were as dumb, though. All of them were beyond that in their own ways. Jack turned his head and went his own way. His head went on the returning topic of the disfigured, or maybe it was an early bird. They wouldn't be able to identify that just by a lousy phone. Making his way through endless halls and doors, many rooms filled with uselessness and usefulness, passing by the others which didn't take notice or did of each and everyone's presence, chaos, screams, and those other types of noises that come from rooms elsewhere. Jack really didn't want to know that, so it was kept unknown. There were also very quiet static noises that came from not to be told, as well as a feeling of uncertainty or dizziness, anger, and many more. But that only occurred in specific places in between the mansion. Some avoided these places, even if there was the worst to behold and what they are not experienced. Some also didn't care. They were either used to passing that place or had the guts to even see what they've been through. Jack wasn't the one to be talking for others. Jack's footsteps take a stop at a specific door decorated with "Do Not Enter," "Gamer at Work, Do Not Disturb," and a lot of warning signs and caution tape, though bashed into the door was a piece of wood that had the name Ben carved in, as it was pinned onto the door with nails. Jack had to tilt his head from how uneven the label was, making sure to check the corners for a tiny mark on the wooden piece. After all, Jack didn't want to walk in a whole different room than what the door says or is labeled. He checked for a stamp which indicated if the room was actually the real one or not, or just a fake that randomly was embedded in the mansion without noticing in these endless halls. The others were ordered to walk these endless halls and check every single door, stamping on the ones which were real. No one liked doing this. It was very important, though. These rooms would randomly disappear and reappear in random places, making each door and room move. Others would be confused when they wake up to see the room in a different hallway or in an unfamiliar place in the mansion. That's why it was hard to give directions throughout the mansion. You never know where the rooms and doors would end up. If whether or not it would be in the same place, it spread confusion and stress like a disease for those who had important stuff to do. Groups and people and one would be scattered along the place as they rushed to find specific rooms, checking each and every label or blank sign with a red stamp on it, avoiding all the other rooms that didn't have the stamps, or just opening the doors to see if randomized doors would actually take them to their destination if they were lucky enough. It was a big problem from the people, which caused madness. How people would open non-stamped doors and would take them to a room which was supposed to be locked on the other person's welfare and intruding on their own privacy reasons. Luckily, this only occurred once a month, in which the randomized doors and rooms would only appear at the first of the month. Probably, which is why everyone who wasn't capable enough to remember the days would always echo out a, "What day is it today?" Jack never understood why it was such a easily forgotten thing to remember. They had their own devices and stuff to check, but he had guessed they had their own reason to do whatever they did. Jack kept notice of this red stamp on the side of the label before knocking on it, taking a step back when he hears a muffled, "Just wait a sec, I'm coming." There was a sound of a rolling chair, then there was something that poked out from the door, which was Ben's head. "What do you want, Jackie boy?" Ben raised an eyebrow. He seemed to take his ghostly abilities to his own advantages. It would stir people off when he would just appear out of floors, walls, ceilings, or even disappear and reappear in a blink of an eye. There was more he could do, but that really wasn't important. "I need to see the locator," Jack stated. Ben seemed to chew on something before swallowing. Yeah, can't I just send it out to you on your phone? That's more easier than walking the whole way," Ben suggested, before the door opened as it made a creaking sound. Jack stepped in the room, filled with screens of different sizes and sticky notes in random places, as well as different sights, cameras, and other stuff along those screens. The room didn't have a closet, as Ben would just steal off of someone or at a store, but it really wasn't useful as he was a ghost and was kept quite neat. There was also a door for a bathroom that was rarely used, because he was a ghost. "I rarely use my phone, plus I left it on the way here," Jack said before taking his arms and crossing them. "Whatever, dude. You should start using it so I can see what you're doing while I'm bored. Maybe mess with you a little bit," Ben snickered. "You just stated reasons why I should keep my phone turned off." Jack shook his head and was let off with a deep sigh. "Just hurry and let me see the map." Ben raised one of his eyebrows out of Jack's rush, taking out a pink cotton candy flavored lollipop and putting it in his mouth. "What the rough?" Ben said as he sat down on his rolling chair before sliding over to his keyboard that sat on the long desk that followed the sides of the wall, which also had empty or half-filled soda cans or other trash. There was a quick sound of the typing of the keyboard before every screen blanked out and showed the map in one. Though there were spaces in between the screens that made it hard to see, Ben was quick to fix that problem, though, taking his arms and hands spread out before closing in. The screens had a creaking, but was put in place together and easier to see. Ben took his lollipop out of his mouth before saying, "I'm so glad they decided to change my wall mounts. Now I can do my magic," Ben exclaimed, before rolling away from the view and bumping into a wall with a thud. Jack examined the screens. He couldn't see where the exact location of her house was because the mansion was so deep in the woods. "Zoom out," Jack demanded, blankly before there was a "yes, sir" called out by Ben, and which was quickly zoomed out. The digital map could only have a view of what was inside of the forest, but if you were on your device, you could see a little closer out. "Whatever you're looking for," Ben stopped. "It's not going to be outside the forest." "I expected that," Jack hummed before uncrossing his arms and slowly taking his leave. "Thank you." he said before opening the door and closing it from behind him. There was a little de nada that came from Ben before Jack closed the door, and that was it before Jack took his own leave out the mansion. If you were an animal, what would you be? Possibly some sort of bird that would be free in the sky, but there were birds that are flightless. Maybe not that. How about some kind of predator? Be on top of the food chain. Wait, no. There would always be something a step ahead of you, like a simple bug that were considered decomposers, or maybe some things in the world. Maybe a fish. You didn't know what kind of fish, but you didn't want to be the kind to be easily skinned by a bear or caught in the ocean. There were so many options to pick from, with its own pros and cons. Wait, where were you? Snapping your eyes open, you find yourself to be in a room, scanning the ceiling as if it was the only thing that would be in your interest. Your heart beats on your cage. You didn't know why, but it had to be caused by something. Your body felt laid back and didn't want to move, but something was off. Maybe it was the feeling of uncertainty and unfamiliarity, but why? This was your own house. Wait, what time is it? You ask yourself, turning your head as the shaft of your head shuffled in between the pillows. There was also a feeling of comfort, though. Guess that was a good thing, or maybe it was. Why do you feel so drowsy and confused? You paid close attention to your surroundings as you turned your head back and forth to the same places you looked at to another. It looked the same, so why were you acting like you didn't know this place, and as if it wasn't familiar to you? To the cold window covered by curtains and a price of plastic to keep the cold away. The door to your bathroom where you did your own business, to how it was decorated and set up, and how the wooden floor was slightly covered by the soft of the carpet. You act as if it was a whole other place and if it was a new sighting. Furrowing your eyebrows and scrunching up your nose, you shake off the thought. You're just acting weird and crazy. You let out a deep sigh before moving your legs. You didn't know how long you'd been sleeping in this position, but you were pretty sure you felt a cramp developing in your back, though you decided to turn your whole body to the side. Bad idea. Once you tried lifting your body to turn over, you felt excruciating pain spread upon your back. Flinching at the sudden feeling, your body turns back to its original position, but ends up in your squirming and moving your legs all over your bed. You let out a pained howl in the process before you were all stiff and unable to move. You didn't want any more shit happen to you after that. Fuck, dude, you cursed loudly as the walls echoed all around. With a pained expression on your face, you stared back at the ceiling once again. Why is my back hurting like that? You questioned before taking your shaky hands and rub your face. You slowly massaged the side of your head in a comforting manner before noticing something about you. Not from the inside, but from the outside. You look at the clothing you wore. It was the clothing you wore whenever you went outside. Of course, without the big heavy jacket, the fuzzy beanie, the gloves, snow pants, boots, and socks. But with your turtleneck and the pants you wore under the snow pants. Wait, why did you have these clothes on? Surely you didn't remember putting them on. Actually, you didn't remember anything you did yesterday. Maybe you really were tired yesterday. That might have been the reason why your back felt that way. Is that normal for your back to hurt like that, though? Fuck, you couldn't remember shit. Mumbling something out of confusion, you tried another attempt to get back up again. This time a lot more slower, though. Taking your arms behind you as support, you groaned and moaned each time you pushed yourself to get up, biting your lip out of pure embarrassment of the sounds you were making. You were surely almost there to sit up before you gave up and let yourself fall slowly. You breathed heavily before trying once again. This time you were getting used to pulling up your heavy weight and was there. Come on, I'm almost there, you whispered to yourself, encouraging each time you were able to make a single lift out of yourself. Yes, 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 you celebrated. You were so close. But right before you could make it, something seemed to interrupt your focus. I wouldn't do that if I were you. What? Snapping your head towards the sound, you see a very familiar mask and hood. What the fuck? You were about to say before your arms gave out again, letting you fall down a bit more harsher than slowly. Your back collided to the bed's mattress, making you bounce and wince from the sudden impact. Shit! You sputter out before feeling pain all over your back. In the corner of your eye, you see the figure make a movement, almost as if it was about to catch you, but was too late. It took you some time to recover before you squinted your eyes open to look at the figure. Blue mask that was dimmed by the orange light, large and tall, the mysterious liquid that spilled out from the hollow eyes, The dark black hood that hid his hair from notice. Jack. The Jack you found in what was supposed to be his snowy grave. The one who bled out in the snow and onto your sled. The one you had to take care of because you were uncertain whether or not to let him go. The one and only who had retractable nails or claws that swiped at you twice. Oh, how the tables turned. Jack, what are you doing here? You mutter out, scanning his figure to make sure you weren't having a nightmare of some sort. He kept silent as he stared at you. It bothered you how you couldn't see his expression, but it's not like he took off his mask, which also bothered you how he was an unknown entity. How you couldn't tell if he was some kind of vampire or a werewolf who ate animal organs and not the normal human food. You two stood and laid there in silence, uncertain of what to do or say. He stopped the silence with a deep, shaky sigh. Was he actually that nervous to say something? I mean, you could do something, but you really wanted to know what he wanted to sputter out. You. Are you here to end my misery? Oh, sorry, Yeah, it's okay. Oh, times two. You can keep. Just let me talk at this point, or should I just let you? Just go ahead and explain, you yell out of frustration. You could tell Jack was taken aback by your outburst. You also noticed his hood moving at the side of his head where his head would be. Interesting. You hear him clear his throat awkwardly before he started. It's a long story, but I heard there was something near you, so I came to check, and during that time I saw you. He stopped before turning his head away and clearing his throat again. Sorry, I saw you blissed out and I tried snapping you out of it. It didn't work, but you ended up passing out anyways, he said. You could tell he was missing some information and was against telling you about it. Wait, maybe you do remember what happened. No wonder why your back felt like that, huh? So, is that all that happened? You asked, remembering the monster. You wanted to see if that was all he saw. Maybe he met that weird creature on his way, mostly because it had disappeared while you were on the run. Jack stared at you for a moment. Truthfully, he faded out, no. He kept his head down as if he was debating whether or not to tell you about something he knew, and by that, it really made you curious as a cat. You wanted to know if he knew about the creatures and if he knew what they were. If there were more things you should know about since you lived somewhat deep into the forest and far away from the town. You really didn't want to mention those hallucinations or what the fuck happened after you fell into the snow back there. Jack raised his head up and looked at you. I can tell you what you want to know, he stated. You made a crooked smile at him, humming and nodding in your response. If so, then I guess I must tell you, he says. But there is something I must ask first. Huh? What would that be? You lifted yourself only so slightly, with your elbows this time. It was quite embarrassing just laying flat down on the bed anyways. I mean, since you answered mine, I can answer yours in favor, you say. Then my question is, did you see one of them? He says. Author's note, Jack and Ryan are back. That was chapter 13, Mysteries to be Told. The next chapter after this one is chapter 14, Lies of Omission. We only have 4 more chapters after this. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that this was discontinued, but hey, still a good story, considering. But I will see you guys next chapter. You guys have a good one. Bye bye.